In this lecture, we're going to finish the form by inserting the comment into the database. One thing to keep in mind, we aren't validating the form in the function because this function will not be called if the field is invalid. vValidate will force validation on the fields before running our function. We're going to continue working in the song component file. In the function, we'll create a variable called comment. The comment variable will be an object. It'll hold the data we'd like to store in the database. There are a couple of properties that we'll want to store. The first is the comment itself. We'll add a property called content. It'll be sent to values.comment. The next property we'll want to add is the date. In the template, we have the option of sorting through the comment from newest to oldest or oldest to newest. We need to store the date if we want to sort the comments based on the time they were posted. We'll call the property datePosted. It'll be set to newDate.toString. We're calling the toString function because Firebase can't store a date object in its database. It would be an invalid value. To get around this, we can convert the date to a string. When we retrieve the comments, we will revert the date back to a date object. You'll see how that's done in the next lecture. For now, storing it as a string will suffice. Up next, we'll store the song ID. Create a property called SID. Set it to this.route.params.id. This property will help us associate the comment with the song. Afterward, we want to store the name of the user who submitted the comment. We can retrieve their name by importing the authentication object from the Firebase configuration file. At the top of the block, add it to the list of imports. Back in the comment object we created in the function, we can add a property called name. We'll set it to auth.currentuser.displayname. The current user object holds information about the user currently logged in. There's no guarantee that this will hold the information we need because anyone can submit a comment. We'll need to hide the form if the user is not logged in. This is something we'll take care of in a moment. There's one last piece of information we'll want to store. The next property we're going to create is the UID. We'll set this property to auth.currentuser.uid. We're storing the ID of the user as an extra precaution. Generally, you will want to store the ID to help identify who submitted the comment. We're already storing the name, but it's a value that can be changed at any moment. The ID is what's unique to each user. It'll remain constant. We're finished with the object. After creating the object, we'll make a request to the database to store the data. Here's the thing. We don't have a collection for comments. We'll need to create one if we want to add some to the database. In your browser, navigate to the database in the Firebase console. In the first column, we can create a collection. Click on the Start Collection button. It'll ask us for an ID for the collection. We'll call it Comments. Next, it'll ask us to insert a document. We'll delete the document after creating it. Feel free to add in random gibberish. After creating the collection, we'll delete the document. Select the document in the second column. In the third column, we can delete the comment at the top right corner. The collection is ready. We can interact with it by using the Firebase SDK. We created collection objects in the Firebase configuration file to prevent us from calling the collection function multiple times. We'll do the same for the comments collection. Open the Firebase configuration file in your editor. Below the collection variables, create a variable called comments collection. Its value will be the object returned by the db.collection function. This function requires the name of the collection we'd like to work with. We'll pass in the name comments. Lastly, export the comments collection object with the other exports. Switching back to the song component, we can add the comments collection to the list of imports. We can proceed to push a new document into the collection. Back in the function we were working with, after creating the comment variable, call the commentsCollection.add function. We're using the add function in this scenario. It isn't necessary to assign a custom ID to the document. We'll let Firebase handle setting the ID. We'll pass the comment object to the function. In addition, we'll add the await keyword because this is a promise. After the request has been made, we'll want to let the user know their comment was added. Let's handle this quickly. After the comment is inserted in the database, set the InSubmission property to false. That should enable submission again. Change the variant to BG Green 500. Lastly, the message will be changed to the following: comment added. The last step is to reset the comment. It's going to be a little tricky because the comment field isn't bound to a property in our component with the vModel directive. Luckily, vValidate passes on a set of functions to our submission handler for the second argument. In the add comment arguments, the second argument is optional. We can accept an argument called context. The context object contains methods and properties about our form. We can use it to reset the form. We're only interested in the reset form function. We'll destructure the second argument for the reset form function. At the bottom of the function, we're going to call the reset form function. The reset form function will reset the values in the form to their original values. The comment field was originally empty. We should receive an empty field after a successful submission. We've written a lot of code. Let's verify that everything is working. In the browser, make sure you're logged into the app before testing the comment form. Try submitting the form without filling out the field. vValidate will throw an error at us. This error proves the validation works as expected. Next, let's submit an actual comment. After a few moments have passed, the alert will tell us that the comment was added. The comment input was cleared after a successful submission. We can't verify it on the application yet, so let's go to the database console to check if it was added. A new document will appear in the comments collection. If we inspect it, we'll find the comment we made. The other properties should be there as well with their respective values. We've successfully added a comment. There's one last thing we need to do. Anyone can submit a comment. This includes users who aren't logged in. We want to limit comment submission to logged-in users only. In the application, I can log out, but the form will still be visible. This is a problem because we don't want anonymous comment submissions. We can fix this by mapping the user logged in state property to the component. It can be used to toggle the form's visibility. Back in the editor, add an import statement for the map state function. Import it from the Pinia module. The map state function will help us with mapping the state to the computed property. Next, import the user store. In the component, add the computed object to it. Inside the computed object, call the mapState function with the spread operator. Let's pass in the user store as the first argument. This function accepts an array of state properties we'd like to map. We'll map the user logged in state property for verifying if the user is logged in. We can now use the state property for toggling the form's visibility. Search for the form element in the template block. We'll add the VF directive to it. The value for this will be the user logged in state property we mapped. If the user is logged in, we'll show the form. Otherwise, hide it. Going back to the browser, you will find that the form no longer appears. Great! We can move on to displaying the comments. Before proceeding on to the next lecture, I recommend logging into the application again.